Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Clinic Talk podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Kelly Boo from KBoo Physical Therapy and Laramie, Wyoming. Kelly, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to speak to you because I know you have a newer practice, less than 1 years old. So I think it'll be awesome for everyone to hear about how you started and where you are now, and just where you're finding success. So yeah, so let's start just about you. Are you kind of a sole practitioner, or do you have partners in your business? Why you chose to get into physical therapy in the first place?
Okay, yeah. So I grew up a farm kid, and my initial plan was to go to veterinary school. And my dad helped me realize that large animal vets don't live a very free lifestyle. So I started looking and really gained an interest for. There's a sports medicine team that travels with the rodeo, so I still have my agriculture background, and I reached out to them, and they said most of their people that worked for Justin Sports Medicine were retired physical therapists. And so that's when I kind of started looking into it. I don't have any real wild stories about like injuries to myself or anything like that, like a lot of people do. There was just this desire to be in that environment. And I still haven't gotten into it. I don't plan to because now that I'm in the field, I love it. Um, I was a PT assistant from 2007 to 2012 and applied to PT school. Went to Missouri State in Springfield, Missouri in 2012 and graduated in 2015. So we made the decision to move back. I had some offers down there in Oklahoma and Missouri to work there. Even had a chain company offer to build me a clinic. It was a pretty interesting deal, and we decided to say no and come back out west to the mountains that we love so much. And I went back to work where I was a PT assistant. Worked for a gal that it was a smaller private company. There was like 4 of us therapists there, and kind of with the overall understanding that I would have the opportunity someday to maybe step into that ownership role on that clinic that I helped build and represent. And it just, the older she got, I could tell that the plan was not going to be in concrete anytime soon. And so I've been dragging my feet. In January last year, I decided to go for it. It was a big move, but I had confidence because I'd been working in this town. This is it's a university town, 30,000 people. So it's not huge, but big enough where the population size is good enough not to be saturated with therapists. And I built a really solid brand around myself at that clinic. So I felt comfortable taking that plunge, and it was one of those deals like, even though in the back of my mind I knew I was probably going to be okay, but starting out always like, ugh, like what if this doesn't go?
And that's feeling like so you're jumping into something. So yeah,
Yeah, and so January last year I started the process, and I took my first patient March 8th of 2024, and then as of like the beginning of May, my schedule was full, and I've been kind of rocking and rolling ever since. So it's been really good. I don't have many complaints. Um, yeah, it's been good.
oh, well said, well said. You can't complain. You're just doing what you got to do. Oh yeah, appreciate that. And do you specialize in anything?
Not necessarily. I mean, being in a smaller town, you kind of got to be willing to see the whole gamut of everybody. Um, I've always been super passionate about neuro. We do not have a neuro hospital here. I always said if we did, that's probably where I'd be. But like, I really love orthopedic general population care, but so not specialty. I mean, orthopedic is 85% of my clientele, probably, Um, but I see pediatrics, neuro, everything up to geriatrics. So, yeah, definitely a melting pot. of patient clientele.
No, that makes sense. And you said it's not a big town, also. So you're serving a population where it's needed, right? So yeah, is there no competition like around you?
There is. So there's a surgery center here. They also treat they're the doctors for the university
Mm.
here.
Yeah.
And so that can create a little bit um of trouble. I think they have like 14 therapists there, and probably about the same amount of surgeons. So their advertising potential, their reach at these university games and stuff is pretty impressive. But at the same time, and this has inspired me to know where I don't want to go with my business. Those big groups seem to lose sight of patient quality of care. Um, get a lot of people. Yeah,
Entities, right? So once you get too big and you start hiring all of that, your essentially your mission of why you're doing what you do, you kind of lose focus of that. So yeah, as long as you stay true to yourself, I think patient and you're wearing patient care, right? Which is super important, and patients can feel that. If they probably treated somebody and they told you they had another therapist that told them to move their arm or their leg around, then that was it.
yeah.
So
So yeah.
also
And
skip.
to a point, I understand there is a goal to be financially successful in this business. Um, and I think there's a sacrifice there, where a lot of even therapists that I'm friends with in town, a lot of them, I'm 42 now, so a handful of the therapists in town were my students at one time. So I still keep a contact with them, and their biggest complaints are, I'm overseeing more than one patient myself, and then I have a tech. They're, and they're just not happy in the quality of care that they can deliver. That company they're working for is knocking out the cash, but like it's at a sacrifice, and so that's where I don't want to be. So I strive to do one-on-one, like, and I'm gonna stick with that.
Awesome, awesome. No, that's your brand, right? It's your brand. You are your practice, how you want to be treated yourself. So yeah, so that's what counts. Do you do in the home as well or no?
I don't know. When I was setting things up with insurance, I did set it up to where I could. Um, and I've been approached by a few people that have, parents or anything that might be getting home health and have asked me to come do that. And it's just going to spread me too thin, I think. But um, before I had a place, I did do some in my own home. I had people come into my house. So I went to a couple people's houses. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so just trying to get creative. But once I got that brick and mortar spot, uh, ah, it's good.
Awesome. Thanks. So next question. It sounds like this is a full time gig for you, right? This is your everything you do. So you give it your all. Do you have any employees or partners or anyone that helps you, or is it just Dr. Kelly Boo doing all the treatment, everything?
Yeah, so as far as patient care, it's just me.
Just
I've hired a billing company, because there were some nightmares setting that up. Getting credentialed with certain insurances was some of the most, mentally challenging things I've ever done, or it's probably why I have so much gray in my beard now, uh, but paying them to deal with that headache and running down denials and stuff like that, like, I've had other clinicians and owners tell me that's money well spent, um, to keep that off your plate, let you keep focusing on patient care. And then I have a CPA that keeps me lined out on the financials. So I feel pretty good. My first hire is probably going to be like, I could really use like some front end help. I spend a lot of time.
so you're front desk as well. So patients come, you greet them, you do the check in process. So all right,
Yeah.
so
And so I spend a lot of time like putting in patient demos and stuff like that. It's not hard, difficult work, but it just chews up my time, and that frustrates me a little bit when I get behind on documentation. So, you know, that'll probably be my first hire.
yeah, and I can respect that because I love the stories of you kind of took on all the roles and wear as many hats as you can to learn what goes into it. And then when you do hire, you know what goes into it. You know what to look, you know what to catch as far as mistakes go. So I could definitely respect that. It's not easy, if you're, the only one in your clinic doing the intake, making sure patients are coming on time, all of that, and doing the treatments and documentation. It's a lot. So definitely kudos for that because it's not easy. I know it's not easy. But it seems like you did hire a billing company to offset billing because that's not something you want to deal with, which I don't blame you for, even though it's not it's not complicated, but it takes so much time. So yeah, right. It's not something you want to do because you could focus more on your brand, treating patients, marketing, whatever else you want to do. Did you ever get to do your own billing, or did you go straight to not?
Yeah, I picked them up, and it's a local company. They're growing themselves too. They had been taking care of, I think, 6 other. I was the first physical therapist clinic they had brought on. They had done medical doctor offices, and so we had a little bit of learning stuff together. But like the growing pains of that, we made through it. And your company's been great dealing with the gals that I work with, as far as communicating and helping teach them. And things are going pretty smooth now, so we haven't had too many hiccups in the last probably 4 or 5 months, so it's been good.
Awesome, good. I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, cool. So just going back to billing a little bit. So it sounds like you take insurance, of course. Oh yeah. Are you also doing any cash based for your patients, or is it strictly insurance? And if there is cash with insurance, what would you say is the split percentage? Something like
Oh, like right now, I'm probably sitting at 90-10 split on insurance versus cash. Also, when I was starting out and I wasn't credentialed, Blue Cross and Wyoming Workman's Comp were super easy to get set up with. I was in with them, but due to like it's kind of a chain reaction thing, so Cigna has become a more affordable option for uh, city and state entities, which also reflects in some of their call center struggles that I dealt with credentialing. But so our state, city, university employees are all Cigna. So I had people lined up when I was ready to go, and I couldn't take their insurance. And fortunately for me, they were all willing to do the cash pay. Like, uh, yeah, and that was a thanks to my brand. People were wanting to come see me. Were excited that I had opened my own clinic finally. Proud of me. Word got out. It was great. Uh, and so that was a big thing. So that cash flow right out of the gate was really helpful. And then uh, once I was able to transition into taking those Cigna clients and some of these other not so common insurances, uh, it's very good since.
he's count. So on that note, you also mentioned your patients, they trusted you, your brand, right? So how do you deal with the market? Are your most of your clients that come in, their word of mouth from others, or do you spend any money on advertising? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I really haven't spent much on advertising. I've bought some swag.
Think if you're based spend money on marketing or much money, then you can't complain.
Yeah. I I have some orthopedic surgeons that it was interesting because I had treated their patients for a while. The clinic I worked at before did. And then it was like once they found out I was on my own, they were excited for me. And now I get all their people that go out of town to see them from Laramie. And so, and then there's some local docs that really value my pledge to stay one on one. Um, I had a surgeon text me the other day. He goes, "Hey, I got this massive rotator cuff I just fixed. This guy's been through the ringer, and I really want that strict one-on-one care. Do you have room?" And I said, "I'll make it happen." Like, and so relationships like that with people and the doctors has been phenomenal. So I really haven't had to advertise much. So to answer your question, word of mouth's been huge with doctors and the community.
Cool, cool. No, that's great. Do you, with the schools, you said it's a big town university, too, right? Do you any, do you go do any kind of courses there or anything kind of educational, so people know about you? So something that doesn't essentially take money from you, but just your time to let everyone exist.
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's funny that you asked that because, so I have a performance part of my clinic also, like, I volunteer a lot with youth coaching, and so, I have 3 kids, 2 of them are hot and heavy into sports. I coach a lot, that's where my evenings are, and I love it. Uh, I also like working with advanced athletes too, so, the idea of being able to do some strength and conditioning and sport-specific training, I will get into that eventually, once I get things lined out. So working with a high school female athlete, recently, and I've had this talk with a few parents, and I'm educating her on, you know, the reason a lot of adolescent girls have knee pain and how it relates to some hip stuff and things like that, and like what the focus should be. And she's like, geez, you should go in and talk to the team, you know, and we kinda start spitballing on that, like, yeah, what if I a Saturday morning clinic on like, "Hey, this should be some serious focus of your workouts, like, we need to really line out on certain ideas," um, and trying to educate the community, but yeah, free for them, just my time spent, but also, like you say, awareness into the community on, you know yeah, that is in the work.
Is it cool? Cool. No, thank you. Yeah, no, that's extremely important as well because again, it only spreads your reach, right? And then others, you build trust on that as well. So yeah, with which and networking, things like that. So cool. I would can you that you want to spend time also with your family at the end of the day or weekend. So you manage your time with your business, right? So you're a solopreneur, right? You want every yourself. So do you have like a time of the day that you start with your patients and a time you end with, and then you have freedom for, personal or leisure activities? Or do, patient, like you mentioned with the surgeon that had somebody patient with rotator cuff, do you fit your patients in any gap of time that you have? Or do you structure it where like, these are my working hours and this is my family time? Or your
Yeah, and that's something I try to pledge to myself early on with, because I have friends that own their own business, and there was always that thought in the back of the head, like, "Oh, once you own your own business, like, you make a lot of sacrifice, you won't be home near as much," and so I wanted to see if I could do that, and so far, I've done pretty good, but so I'm, I work 4 days a week. I usually take my first patient at 9:15 and take my last one at 3:30. I don't take a lunch. I don't have any breaks, so I can usually on a full day, I can fit in 10 people. Um,
night.
yeah, 9 to 10 people, and so, like, in a week, I'm seeing 30, 35 to 40 people a week. Have Fridays off. It's really good. My wife takes Fridays off too, so, like, we can be able to go have some, kid-free lunch or whatever, and then also I have that freedom to button up some things, outside of the clinic I need to take care of or catch up on documentation too, so, um, 3-day weekends are amazing, like
It's awesome. I think, and I love that you said that because as your own business owner, right? You want to structure something for yourself that makes sense business wise and your personal time, right? And it sounds like you achieve that by having a 3-day weekend all the time. That's you, right? Yeah. And as far as your business, it doesn't get sacrificed because that's how you're structuring the business, right? And because you have your own business, everything goes, you bill, you reimburse, everything. So your finances are in line. But it sounds like you made that work already for yourself and you've been doing that. Was that how you structured it from day one, or did you make modifications as you went?
uh, that was the big idea from day one was I think yeah, when I first started, I did do 5 days, but they were kinda, like, pieced together, so, like, my first week that I was open, I probably had, I don't know, 12 people on my schedule, and then it just kinda kept trickling up, uh, and so then once I was, like, realizing how full my 5-day work week was gonna be,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I gotta set this side of time for me and my family and also because like when you have kids that play travel sports, you're heading out of town on Friday afternoon, right? So like if I had that freedom to be able to come home and my wife and I pack everything, load the car, and kids get home from school and we take off or and it's just really nice. And I joke a lot like, oh, my boss is really forgiving. He lets me, take off whatever time I need for sports. So
Sure.
got a great boss.
Awesome. Cool. So you mentioned, some time also like documentation time, right? So I know that's a big thing. So, and Hello Note, one of the things we really try to do, we're trying to solve a lot of the world's problems all at once, right? So one of them is documentation. That's always something. Whether you're a business owner that have to do your own documentation, or you have employees and they have to do documentation, right? So is there any shortcut you use, like template, that you use for documentation? Is there specific times of the day? Do you do documentation right after a patient, during a patient, or you allocate specific time? Any kind of techniques that you would recommend for others running their business for documentation?
Yeah. So I do use the templates, the eval templates, quite a bit. And I'm still even structuring those depending on private pay or Medicare, just because those setups look a little bit different. Um, There's been some other things that I try to use. I do the narration box on, like, my exercises and stuff like that quite a bit. Um, and that's been some things I've suggested back to you guys on, like I like the flow sheet things, I like, but the list gets really long, and so I find myself, like, scrolling, and so I suggested, like, "Hey, could we break these down into body parts or whatever?" And the person I was chatting with said, "That's a good idea. I'll forward this," and just something to be able to go quicker. Boom, 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 Um, and that's been great. The templates I really like. The templates saved me a ton of time because post-op knee is gonna have real similar goals, post-op shoulders, low back pain, like a lot of them are gonna have similar goals, similar treatment plans, expected treatments, things like that. And so, just to be redundant, because it's two different patients, um, the the evaluation should be individual, but all the other stuff that's the necessary evils, I guess you would call them, goals and
Yeah.
outcome measures and stuff like that. Like those are going to be similar across the board. So I've been really utilizing those templates quite a bit.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and those have been really helpful.
Awesome. And is there a time of the day that you structure doing documentation, or just whenever you find the time?
Yeah, so it's more whenever I find the time. When I, like, have to give myself a little come to Jesus meeting, like, if I'm letting my documentation stack up, uh, I'll tell myself, like, "Man, we gotta be working on these while we're finishing up with people," And I struggle with and this goes back to, like, that, um, one-on-one care, I feel really invested in that person. I'm educating a lot. I conversate a lot. Next thing I know, my next one's in the door, and I'm like, "Crap, here we go. I'm behind on this one too." Like, um, which isn't a bad thing, but it is frustrating at the end of the day when I know I have 5 notes to do, or whatever. But that's the game. And I've worked with people that are really, really strict on themselves, really disciplined, you know, um, and that's not always me, but I try to be a little bit of that. Is it really helps for the after work mentality, the weekend mentality when you're just free and hands off. So
Yes. And then that's the goal, right? You want to be free to hands on, whether you're doing 5 days a week, you have a 2 day weekend, or like you have a 3 day weekend, you want to enjoy that time, right? Because you want to come back to do the work that you love and not have to seep into the other days that you feel like those should be personal time. So,
yeah.
also sharing that, Kelly. And then what about like reports, like running your practice, right? So even though it's just you right now, and you did mention you eventually do want to hire somebody, like so you do want to hire somebody. So what reports do you run now to just keep track of the health of your business? From perspective, I know we have clients that love the referral report. That's like their favorite report. Others love the aging balance report. Some clients that don't like to finish documentation, same day they run the draft note report. So, yeah. So what do you find is kind of the most meaningful reports for you for running your practice?
Yeah, so and this is something that I've told myself maybe when I hire that front desk person, because I know that there's more resources with Hello Note than what I'm using as far as reports. I mean, when I feel like anytime I get caught up on documentation, I immediately run a missing notes or a draft notes report and go, "Ooh, yeah, whoa, got to get on that one," um, but P&Ls, that I get from my CPA, that of course is huge just to see the health of my business because the more I am, on the positive side of things, the more I feel like gives me room to breathe. Not that I've had any of those fears yet, but, it gives me some security going, "Okay, this is going well," or "This is fine." Um, and I don't need to panic or anything like that. I just keep moving forward. Um, but yeah, I should, and I will, get into more of the reports that you guys have on Hello Note for that kind of stuff. But as of now, documentation, is kind of it. I've gone in. What I would like to see is like a breakdown on kind of overall averages on my reimbursements, depending on insurances, you know, stuff like that. Like if you have three neuromusculars versus two neuros and a thorax, like is there an advantage to that? Because sometimes with Medicare, when you stack codes in similar fashion, they reduce on each stack, and so that kind of stuff that's important. And not that it should change your practice, but like CPT codes are weird, right? So like thorax can kind of blend into neuro-re-ed, that can kind of blend into therapeutic activity. That's conversations that are going on the Uncaged Clinician site all the time. Doctor of physical therapy students on, people just saying, "Hey, can somebody help me decide what this is and what it should look like?"
Yeah, no,
And yeah, matters.
fun. Yeah, and when you're ready to hire that person, we do trainings as well. So, and it's one of the things we like to support our clients with is trainings, right? So, because everyone runs their practice differently, right? So, the best thing we can do, we set up those trainings. We show you what is available to you, and then you can decide how your practice is structured and which report you want to run or features you
Right.
right? Because look, at this point, thankfully we have so many clients already, and we learn that it's not one size fits all, and that's why we do listen to feedback. And I know you give us feedback, and I appreciate that. Our team appreciates that because it's how we grow in the community, right? We don't know, right? Everyone practice differently. There's even insurance rules, right? We have clients that tell us, hey, this insurance does. I just recently heard this authorizations they do based on minute, not unit. And that's something like I have, you know, like I usually it's either CPT code or visit or unit, so they have all of that. And then they said, well, I have one payer that does minute. So we said, okay, no problem. We have unit. We'll modify it to also include minute. So we're always listening, it's something from our inception. We wanted to make sure that we relate to all our clients. Like give us the feedback, positive, negative. We want to hear from our clients because we want you to be able to run the practice that you chose to, as you said in the beginning, you didn't know what you were getting into sometimes and you're kind of, hey, is this going to work out or not? And we're there to support you. So feedback is so super important. So appreciate that, Kelly.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
And if I could take a minute too, Steve, like I want to commend you and your team on being so receptive to that because uh I have this feeling like listening to the community discussions on social media that Hello Note is growing. And there's other smaller startup documentation systems that are more affordable for small clinics like myself. And I demoed a few of them. And in the end, even reading on people's opinions and stuff, like it just yours seemed the most approachable, which was huge. Not only were the features seemed to be more clinically oriented than some of the others, but like just asking questions and doing a demo with your people really made me feel a lot better about going with that, and I've been happy ever since. And of course, just like you said, with a growing company, yeah, nothing's going to be perfect, and I don't expect it to be. And so, like when I'm going through stuff and I have to make a few extra clicks, and I'm like, oh, geez, there could be a shortcut there, to just really increase efficiency. And so I write it down. So I've told you, like, I hope I'm not annoying you. Like, I'll just write it down and figured I send it to you or Carlos, and you guys can either say like we already kind of have something like this in the works, or that's not realistic, or we'll take it and see if we can run with it. And so that's just, yeah, me appreciating you guys as well.
Greatly appreciate that. That really means a lot to me and the team. We do what we do because of feedback like that. We want to make sure that we are approachable. So I love that feedback. But yeah, write everything down. You're not annoying us. Believe me, we want to have a long list of features because it allows us to run the proper company that we want to run. And if we have to hire more engineering team, more staff for that, we will. Right. So it's actually encouraged. We encourage you to reach out to us because we want to have a list of features that are real world, right? Because again, you can hire all the consultants that you want, right? I know, there's EMRs with deeper pocket, right? Yeah. And they can hire consultants, but at the end of the day, everything has to come down to how everyone runs their practice. And that's where we are different, where we actually listen to our clients because you guys are our consultant, right? So we greatly appreciate that too. So thank you for that.
That's huge. And when you guys implemented a suggestion that I made with the scheduling, with the copy and paste thing, like, yeah, that that was a prideful moment for me. But I went on to Facebook onto my Uncaged Clinician page, and I was like, hey, Hello Note users, like this is a new thing. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Like like seeing other people being excited about it. And it was just like, I mean, it took a couple months, which I can't imagine how much legwork that takes to get what seems simple on my end, but like rewriting codes or software, like, uh, that's not in my world. And so I know that's going to take time, but it was a great move.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I appreciate that feedback and giving us a plug. So yeah, I mean, that just goes to show you like others are also appreciative of something from an idea that you had. So thank you for that. Yeah. Awesome, Kelly. And then I guess just the last question for you is like, what's your long term goal for your company? Do you see yourself just building a legacy with your own brand, or do you want to go into more of a franchise model, hire more? Uh, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, that's interesting because my wife and I were just talking about it because like, um, for the next 3 weeks, like my schedule's full. And so I'm like trying to decide, do I open up that Friday, or do we just make it work? And so if people, I always ask people when they call, like, I'm like, how acute is this? Is this something we've been dealing with for a while? Can it wait a little bit? And most people that can wait will wait for me, which is I'm greatly appreciative to. Um, and so there's the thought, like maybe I need to be thinking about at least a part time or PRN uh, therapist, just to take off some of that load. Because I read things that like owning clinicians, should practice 40% of the time and own 60% of the time kind of thing,
Sure.
um, and I can see where that would be really beneficial if you wanted just to scale.
Yeah.
Um, and I do feel confident that I could scale pretty decent, but then like I step back and I'm like, yeah, is that what I want though? Like, do I want to have 8 therapists hired underneath me? Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be good for that legacy for my financial security going forward. But you talk to a lot of these owners and they're like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows when you start bringing on more employees. Like more employees, usually more conversations, more hard conversations, tougher decisions, and sometimes more drama. And so being where I'm at, I'm probably looking, gonna do front desk first, let them do a lot of my front end work, patient demographics, stuff like that, insurance entries, um, and give me more time for documentation and some of the other important stuff. Uh, but then I may hire another therapist here soon, but it's something I'm probably gonna keep my heels dug in on just staying by myself for a while. Uh, Because I tell you, and this is something for like young clinicians or even people thinking about going out. Like with, and I tell my students this, so like clinical instructors, it's, I consider it just as important to have a bad clinical instructor as to have a good one. Like, yeah, I mean, you want to have a lot of good ones, right? So, like, for every 10 clinicians or CIs, I hope they have 9 great ones, but that one not so great one will teach them exactly who they don't want to be, right?
Yeah.
How they don't want to practice, how they don't want to interact with patients. I think the same goes for ownership. So I worked for my previous employer for 14 years total as a PT and PTA,
Yeah.
and not a great business person. Um, she was known in the community. I don't even know if she was an outstanding therapist, but she knew a lot of people and just never really grew her clinic. And so, however, that was very beneficial to me because that has kind of shaped me into like where I don't want to go, you know? So, like when we talk about hiring a friend in, I think this last year of me being in charge of everything is going to be huge when I bring somebody in because I can train them completely without being like, oh, we'll figure it out together, like, and then every time they have a problem, they can reach out to me first. And if I can't answer it, then we reach out to you guys. And so I'm excited to bring somebody on like that and confident that between myself and then with your guys' help, it'll be seamless.
Awesome. No, I love that approach, and I like what you said about you want 9 good ones, but that one not good one is something that you can learn from, right? Because yes, everything is a learning experience, even business, right? So after the longer you're in business, it's not always going to be positive. I'm sure there's difficult patients, billing situation, whatever it is, but that actually makes you learn and adapt, and you figure it out for next time, right? So you don't make the same mistakes, so you know the path you want to choose. So awesome. Yeah. So Kelly, I appreciate that. It was a pleasure having you on, and congratulations on your success in this short time. So I definitely would love to follow up with you soon and see how things are going, progressing. But I'm rooting for you, man. So I appreciate. So yeah, thank you very much for the feedback as well, and we'll chat soon.
That's the man. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Bye bye.